نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace and blessings of Almighty God be upon all of you. My name is Adel Razi, and it is truly unfortunate that I am unable to be with you as I'm isolating. However, the magic of technology allows for me to be with you while staying at the comfort of my home. Anyways, today's topic of interest is alcohol and other drugs. Now, before I bombard you with information, I'd love to outline what I will be covering in the presentation. The key points that I would love for you, the audience, to take home is to understand the need of alcohol and other drugs awareness campaigns. Understand why people use drugs and alcohol. Understand the relevant facts of common alcohol and other drugs within the NT. Understand the biological, psychological, social, and economical effects of these substances. Understand how to communicate with individuals who use. Understand how stigma negatively affects seeking support. And lastly, be aware of alcohol and other drugs support services in the NT. Now, what is the need of this presentation and why am I delivering this presentation to you? Well, firstly, we need to compare and contrast the NT to the other states and territories across Australia. Now, with regards to alcohol and other drugs, NT is top 5 for these respective domains, which is lifetime risk of alcohol consumption has been exceeded. Single occasion risk of alcohol consumption, at least monthly, has been exceeded, and we are within top 5 of this. And lastly, the recent illicit drug use within the NT is so prevalent that it is top 5 within Australia. Now, I wanted to boil this back and reflect it upon how it affects within the Muslim community and what is our responses to it. Firstly, we need to understand that the Muslim community in Australia is a non-dominant minority group. And statistics have shown that non-dominant minority groups are more likely to engage in unhealthy behaviors such as smoking, alcohol consumption, and etc. Secondly, statistics have also shown that religiosity serves as a deterrent for opportunities of risky behaviors. However, when the opportunity is made available, religiosity does not serve as a deterrent factor. Now, what I mean by that is when a person himself is considers to be religious, he is much less exposed to alcohol and other drugs and opportunities for him to participate in risky behaviors. However, when the opportunities are made available to this hypothetical person, religiosity does not help him. Statistics have shown that religiosity does not serve as a deterrent factor with this regard. Now, statistics have also shown that Muslims are less likely to seek help for alcohol-related problems compared to the non-Muslim counterparts. And this is a study done in Australia. And this is possibly due to social stigma. And lastly, it is also hypothesized that Muslims feel uncomfortable about approaching the secular or mainstream healthcare systems, which may not understand them. Now, where does UMNT fit into the picture, and why should you listen to me? Well, it all boils down to the National Drug Strategy from 2017 to 2026. And where UMNT fits in is within the demand reduction category. And this is a schematic taken straight from the report. So within this section, there are 3 factors that we at UMNT intend to tackle. Firstly, improving community understanding and knowledge, reducing stigma and promoting help seeking. Secondly, having programs focused on building protective factors and social engagement, and lastly, targeting specific audiences. And this specific audience that we have selected is the culturally and linguistically diverse population, the COLD population. This is our priority population. Now, getting into the meat of the topic, which is alcohol and other drugs use. So now, why do people use drugs and alcohol? Well, here's a list. Firstly, relaxation, recreational purposes. A key factor being peer pressure. This is when the youth, the kids in middle school, kids in high school are first exposed to drugs and alcohol. Curiosity, you wanting to experience different things. A coping mechanism. And lastly, people also use it to minimize physical or psychological pain and trauma. Now, with the use of drugs and alcohol, it can bring about a plethora of harms. So we shall start from the health harms that it can cause. Firstly, it can cause injury, a general injury to the body. It can cause chronic conditions and preventable diseases, and this range from lung diseases to cancers to heart problems and liver issues. It can also cause mental health problems, a deterioration in your mental health status. It can also result in road trauma and motor vehicle accidents, leading to surgical intervention and whatnot. Now, in terms of social harms, what can it cause? It can cause violence, another crime. It can cause individuals to be engaged with the criminal system and more broadly engage within the criminal system in a negative manner. It can cause childhood developmental trauma. It can cause intergenerational trauma, and it's also a precipitating factor for domestic and family violence and so forth. In terms of economic harms that affect the government, it can result in healthcare and law enforcement costs to skyrocket, to increase. It can cause decrease in productivity, resulting in employability issues and reduction in employment. It can cause associated criminal activity, and lastly, reinforcement of marginalization and disadvantage. Now, I've put up this slide that shows a graph of the prevalent illicit drugs within the Northern Territory from the age groups of 14 and above. And as you can see there, a significant one is cannabis and everything else, such as ecstasy, cocaine, and methamphetamines, lie below 5% there. So the major the big players that I will be tackling today or discussing is alcohol and cannabis. And I will also be discussing about khat, which is specific to the culturally and linguistically diverse populations. So firstly, alcohol is considered to be a depressant that slows down messages in your brain, in a nutshell. So alcohol within the NT, well, firstly, when you understand this is the only recreational drug that is legal, and hence its tremendous costs upon the health system and the government. As you can see, there's 141 premature deaths caused by drinking, and I believe that statistic is from 2019. It has resulted in $76 million worth of police time with regards to alcohol-related crimes. It has resulted in $142 million worth of costs with regards to alcohol-related crime. It has resulted in 4.5% to 11% cases of child abuse and neglect, and a staggering 50% of road crash deaths and 20% of serious injury crashes are attributed to alcohol. And this study was done by Menzies School of Health and Research. Now, the effects of alcohol are lots. It starts from depression. It can lead to poor memory, brain damage, difficulty in having children, impotency, liver disease, cancer, hypertension, heart problems. It can result in you being tolerant to it and resulting in addiction later on, alcohol dependence. Now, cannabis is the second drug that I'd like to discuss more about, and this is considered to be a cannabinoid. Now, I've included this slide within this presentation, and this is not for the purposes of the middle schoolers in the audience to collect and build their vocabulary. However, this is for the adults, the parents, where they can see these words such as weed, cones, joints, hash, pot, dope, and whatnot, and understand and equip themselves with this knowledge so that they are aware of what is going around them and what the middle schoolers and their kids within the school may face or are facing already, so that they may better tackle it. Now, in terms of short-term effects of cannabis, it can cause memory impairment, slower reflexes, and classically the bloodshot red eyes. It can cause tachycardia, which is increased heart rate, mild anxiety, and paranoia. In terms of long-term effects, it can result in tolerance and dependence on cannabis itself. It can result in decreased cognitive functioning, and lastly, cannabis-induced psychosis. Now, khat is a very interesting drug because it's a stimulant. It is also illegal in the NT. And khat is a drug that is chewed upon, and it is common in social traditions in parts of Middle East, such as Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and in Eastern Africa, such as Somalia. So this is a drug that was specifically identified in the within the report. Now, the effects of khat, which are lots. Firstly, it can cause worsening of existing mental health issues. It can cause sleep-related issues, liver diseases, fertility problems, digestive problems, sore mouth, inflamed mouth, resulting in mouth cancer, and psychological dependence. Now, what is this term, poly-drug use? So oftentimes, drugs are not consumed by themselves. A lot of the times, drugs are consumed together or one after the other. Now, this causes a significant issue for healthcare workers, and because the effects can be drastic. Now, we've already discussed the need for this presentation, where UMNT fits in, and we've also touched upon some specific drugs within the NT and their effects on the body. Now, what do we do with all this information? All information we will synthesize and help in tackling the issue on how we reduce the use. So I've divided the slide into 3 different sections. The first domain there is knowledge. So I've already presented to you about the basic information about some drugs. However, there is a number on the slide where you are able to text them, and from the other side, they will reply with information with regards to a specific drug that you need to be more informed about. Now, it is also beneficial in understanding how people can reduce using substances. So the different methods are going cold turkey, that is completely stopping any relation to drugs and alcohol. Secondly is counseling and lifestyle changes. Thirdly, detoxification. And lastly, rehab, which is where social support services come in. Now, in terms of the second domain, which is communication, I'd like to emphasize that being calm and respectful, being positive, and most importantly, being non-judgmental is probably the most important factor when communicating when to individuals that use. So this will allow you to build rapport and hence flirt with the idea of reducing their use of alcohol or other drugs. And the last domain there is you knowing your own boundaries, knowing self-boundaries in terms of support, and also being available for people that you know that are using. And some strategies for this is that you may accompany them to social events. You may organize deterring plans, deterring social events that they may not use. And lastly, be able to connect them with social support services. Now, we've already defined the issue, and I've already given you tips on how to communicate. But also, we need to understand that you need to be able to set the agenda as well as plan out a good time to talk. And lastly, you need to be self-reflective and be able to establish your own boundaries and the boundaries of the conversation itself. Now, lastly is the support services. So I've thrown a bunch of support services out there, made a collage out of it. So you have the MT Community Services, Banyan House, Catholic Care NT. These are all specific to the NT, and I do believe that the MT Community Services are in the audience there tonight with us. So I hope you'd be able to go and have a chat with them. And well, that concludes my presentation. There is no safe level of drug use is basically what I would love to hone into the audience. And I hope that I have provided you with enough insight on the topic and have given you the background on the issue in the Muslim context. So, Jazakallah khairan and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.